What's up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood host. Yeah. Oh God, I'm breaking on my own intro here. It's your friendly neighborhood host, that guy Frankie, yours truly, web swinging back at you in a new interview. I can't really say new. This is more of a retake, a refresh, a reboot of an interview I had with the amazing, the web swinging, the spectacular, the ultimate Brandon Melo. Because the last time we had an interview was when he was in Manila for Take Me To Banaue after it had released. But your boy over here could not keep the same energy. I was dead the entire time of that interview, so we thought, hey, why not redo the interview and have some fun this time around? And I may or may not be wearing the Terror Trader X-ray glasses I got from my dad and my older brother, that being JDK and the Pope of Pain, just to leak Monsters of Manhattan because I'm still waiting on that trailer and I'm still waiting on a script. So yeah, how have you been, Mr. Brandon Melo?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be back on the show. Finally, you're alive. It's there. You're here. You have life.
I know!
And
It's back! This is the
touche.
way I'm supposed to be! I can't be!
uh, yes, we're back at it for take two.
In this case, take one. So, I've already let the cat out of the bag on this one, but yeah, Take Me To Banaue. One of the best films that I've seen, especially in the romance genre. The romance genre, it's not everyone's forte as much. It's really hard to get into unless you're one of those, I think, Amanda Bynes rom-com chick flicks, because those are fun. But with Take Me To Banaue, the best way that I would put it, it's Pretty Woman set in the Philippines, just a lot more funnier with a lot of the jokes in there. That's how I would go about it.
No, that's a good catch. That was the meets pitch. It was Pretty Woman and I believe like Napoleon Dynamite. Or Danny also mentioned like the sprinkle of like Forrest Gump. Yeah, that was a good observation on your end.
I'm trying to remember, Malik. I'm telling you, I've been doing as many deep dives as I can, but with my memory at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if I have Alzheimer's or something, forgetting everything. I'm over here like Zeb Wells writing Spider-Man. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with comic book continuity half the time.
Fair enough.
Now let's get this started. Are you ready for your first question, Mr. Hank Reeves?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Before you got the role of Hank Reeves, what was the auditioning process like to get your role in Take Me To Banaue?
Oh, yeah, it was the audition process was definitely intense. It was like a 7 month process. It was just at the peak of COVID. Danny had reached out to me because he had seen some of my work through the Spider-Man stuff, and he was in the development process, so very early on in casting, and he's very cast actor oriented. So
Yeah.
he wanted to make sure that he could nail the characters, nail the dynamics, because he knew that the project would live and die on its cast. So yeah, he definitely put me through the ringer, but I think it definitely paid off because we got all of our dynamics established in advance with just getting to meet everyone, and I was able to be there for casting Thea and Dylan. So yeah, it was definitely an exciting time. He's like, okay, you're not casted yet, but if you were casted, would you like them for your co-star? And I was like, I feel like you might be planting some seeds for something. So yeah, it was definitely something. My ass was overly prepared for my first audition. I had everything memorized, and the pages were really long. It was like 11 pages for an audition, and usually they're about like maybe 3 to 4. But he does like his Hank Reeve monologues and such, and some of it ended up actually being on the cutting room floor. But it felt like theater in a way, and that I felt very comfortable in that, and some of Hank's mannerisms and all the physicality and stuff. So yeah, it was a fun time. We just didn't know if the movie was happening, frankly. Like I was in limbo with all of it for all of 2021, and then we shot early 2022. We didn't get greenlit until January, and then we started shooting in March. So it was pretty much like a year process of like,
Yeah. The movie making
maybe it'll
business is pretty hard too, from what I hear. Like it takes either longer to get greenlit or everything is already shot and done, but then you have to wait a certain amount of time for it to either be released, whether it's like international or globally, because it takes too long for some projects to even come out.
yeah. I mean, we had our own trials and tribulations of the distribution side of things as well, just because we wanted to make sure that all parties attached to the project are happy, and we definitely had to jump through some hoops just in regards to representation for the Philippines. We had some government officials attached to the project that you know wanted to make sure that the Philippines was represented appropriately. So then that delayed things a year after we were all done and wrapped and everything, because we were doing tours 2023, and it didn't get released until this year. So after we were wrapped and done, we sat on the project for a little bit. So yeah, I mean, filmmaking isn't easy.
No, and then especially with like going in that risk of like making sure that everything is like um, the way that everything was shot in the Philippines to make it like representative and getting everything they want in that light. Because with most films, a lot of film companies, especially now, they'll take like the easy way out and the cheaper way out. Where instead of going to like where the location is, they'll go somewhere cheaper and make the set look exactly like it, but it's contrastically different. Like this isn't New York, this is fucking Chicago for all I know. Like what is it? There's that famous thing in Spider-Man where they said they shot in New York, but there's like a scene where it's only shot in Chicago, but it's New York, and I'm like, that's not New York. That's Chicago.
No, that was something that I really appreciated about Danny and crew, just being able to go out to the Philippines. It was my first time at all, like in Asia, so that was epic. It was a 27-hour flight, so it was definitely lengthy. I had to learn to be patient and get comfortable like this in my seat, but nonetheless, it was an exciting prospect to shoot a foreign film. Not that many actors in their careers, especially my age, are able to say that they're you know making moves like this. So yeah, I mean, I'm forever grateful for Take Me to Banaue and where it's led me in my career.
Especially with like that ringer you were put through. You went from having this gorgeous, luscious beard and like this long, emo-ish hipster boy hair, and then for it to be cut out later. And I'm like, bro, you went from like you went from like the look, the poster boy of like emos right there, and then we get like the
Yeah.
pretty boy. Like I made a joke to my friends like nothing wrong with Hank towards the end of the movie, but you go from like the goth emo looking guy with like the longest hair to just like your
Yeah.
uppity Christian good boy with Christian values. Nothing wrong. Still good hair. Good looking still.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, definitely so much wrong with that last look. It's not like it's my usual look or anything like that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that was something that Danny really wanted. He wanted the beard and the look. I really transformed for Hank. It took a good amount of time. To grow out the beard, and I also lost 45 pounds for the role. I had to go on a major cut, so and I lost 45 pounds in like a month and a half right before shooting because Danny greenlit the project in January, and it was like post holidays, and I didn't
Yeah.
know I had to be on screen, so I was just like comfortable, but I wanted Hank to have this like wiry look, some like in my mind he forgets to eat because he's constantly working. He's an engineer, so he's very like headstrong. Um, so yeah, it was a very transformative role. It isn't really like your traditional rom com. It was very, like I mentioned earlier, character focused
Yeah.
and act oriented. So yeah, it was very much about the process and making sure that it was true to the story. It wasn't just like, oh, here's some good-looking people and they're going to fall in love and stuff. It was a lot more than that, and that's one of the things that I really appreciated about the script, is that there was so much depth to it. It wasn't just like your run of the mill rom-com. I'm not big on the genre in general. I'm more of a noir, type of crime thriller type of guy. So but the prospect of a rom-com was definitely very exciting, and it was at the perfect time because I was consuming rom-coms because of COVID times. I was like sad eating a tub of ice cream, and then Dan called me and he was like, "Hey, you want to be in one of these?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." So yeah, it's fun. Clint Eastwood started his career with like spaghetti westerns, and Matthew McConaughey, started in rom-coms. So it's like, it's a staple of like these types of pictures to be a good, starting off point for upcoming act.
When you were when you were filming your scenes as Hank, did you ever find it difficult trying not to like bring elements from other roles or other films that you've done? Like, did you ever feel like, crap, I'm acting too much like Peter Parker when I should be acting like Hank? I'm acting too much like Incel from this horror movie that I did, or I'm acting too much like X, Y, and Z when I should be acting like this?
That's a good question. There's definitely a lot of like Peter Parker and Hank. Just the fact that he's like this awkward, nerdy guy. He's basically Peter Parker if he never got bit by the spider.
I think he's worse in the sense that the man does not have any riz whatsoever. He's the "where my hug" guy had at the beginning of the film.
Yeah. Facts. Yeah. Honestly, when one of my friends saw Take Me to Banaue, he was like, "Brandon, I've never seen you this shy before." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's a very transformative role. Even Peter Parker has some riz. He's got Gwen Stacy, MJ. He's got it all. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely elements of like other characters that I've played because of my casting type, but no, Hank's kind of his own animal. It was because I never felt like Peter Parker at any point when I was Hank, because I had the beard and everything and the lengthy hair, and yeah, he had his own challenges and his own tempo and way of speaking. So once I was on set, I was very focused on what I was doing at the time with the character. So it never crossed my mind like, is this too close to Peter, even though it's embedded in the character of like awkward, nerdy smart guy like that. That's just my casting type. But Hank veers off and makes it 3-dimensional, so it's not just that boxed type. So and plus the adventure that he goes on is just so far out there, far removed from anything Spider-Man related. So he's definitely not the action hero type, I'll say that much.
Are you Wi-Fi? Because I would really like to connect with you.
Sick freak! No!
Were there any scenes, whether they were like the intimate scenes with your co-stars or any scenes in general, where you're like, this is a little too much, but I'm still gonna try to give it my A game, where you felt like it was difficult, but you still like exceeded and pushed that limit for it? Because there are a good amount of like, there's a good amount of funny scenes, especially with Jinky, that I remember, and I was like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah, Thea is one of the best actresses that I ever got to work with. She brought her A game. I would say, she stole the show for the movie. Like when I was on the press tour, I was like, Thea is the movie. Those scenes I never felt uncomfortable in, even though obviously Hank did. That was something that was very fun to play, and we crafted the scene in advance. We very much like went through it over and over again. I mean, of course, I never shot a sex scene before, so that was something I had to adjust to, because it wasn't, while it's romantic on screen, it's quite the opposite on set.
Yeah.
Closer to like you know, in a weird way, shooting an action sequence where it's all about the choreography and, you know, moving in certain ways for the camera. And funnily enough, Danny wanted to use it as like an icebreaker, so that was day one.
What?
So like thankfully, you know, I met Maureen in advance with our Zoom calls, and I grabbed lunch with her once I was in the Philippines. Of like, okay, we're gonna shoot the movie. Great, here, let's go. But yeah, so that was definitely, you know, a bit awkward. But I would say the biggest challenge was honestly just adjusting to a new environment, and I mean, when we got on our last call, the time zone differences is like tough, and especially when you're in like a new land. And like I mentioned, I was dieting for a month and a half prior to it, so I was on tuna and apples, and that was it, like a very strict regime. And then I got to the Philippines, and I started eating all of these new, you know, exotic foods. So my body was like adjusting. I'm from Boston, so it was, you know, colder conditions. It was, you know, March, end of February, so it was colder out here. It was like, you know, like 20 degrees, and then going to the Philippines, it was 110 degrees. So I got sick a few times while I was out there, and it was definitely tough, like managing like all of these symptoms while like you know, shooting this picture where my character has very like high energy. And it was especially tough the last day of shooting because, you know, you have the classic scene of Hank Reeves going after the girl, and he's like, "I love you, Grace. Let me climb over the rice terraces and get to your house." And Hank's just an idiot because he was wearing, you know, jeans, boots, a button up, and a sweater, and all like just all these like ridiculous things that you should not wear in 110 degrees. Like you'll see it in the movie. I'm like sweating. My face is like red.
I do. At one point, I thought you were gonna catch heat stroke. I was like, "Is he gonna be fine? This man is doing like the things you should not. This is like Arizona heat. Do not do this."
Yeah, it was just like it was tough. And Danny didn't even, you know, Danny was like having a hard time, like, getting to the shooting location. So he was like a few miles out. He was at like Video Village. And like in between the takes, I would have to like take off the like button up and the sweater, and like some of the crew would have to like give me a towel, give me some Gatorade so I could like keep going, because it was definitely tough. And you know, that was the point where like my Spider-Man skills came into play, because I was like, it's not as much in the movie, but like I was jumping over rocks and like the whole shebang. And yeah, it was intense. And then like the worst part about it was like after we wrapped, I was like, okay guys, we're good, off to lunch, last day, awesome, let's go party. And like out of nowhere, this is very true to the Philippines, like just huge storm comes like out of nowhere and just like pours down on us, and not like sprinkle where it was like, oh, it's like like streets were like flooding. Like I was like, I don't know how we're gonna get like to the van. Get out of here. Are we just gonna live on the rice terraces for a day or so? Like what's happening here? So like we had to like climb to like the van, and got the flu like later that night, and I was like shit, like shivering, and we had to do like an after party and everything, and I went in for like an hour or so, but like then I had to go back to bed because I had a fever. And I was in a foreign land, so I didn't know if I had to like go to the hospital or something. I was like, can I even go to the hospital? What are the rules like out here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was tough. It was just like constant like adjustments to the conditions that like we're, you know, not used to out here in America. So it definitely made me grateful for what I have once I'm back at home, because the living conditions are drastically different when you're out there. And you know, Danny and crew definitely took care of us, but you know, just like very simple things of just like it's 110 degrees out, like those are things you can't control, no matter how good your house is or, you know, the hotel or whatever. So yeah, it definitely took some time to adjust, and I'm glad we finished the picture. That's like the biggest milestone, regardless of all of the you know trials and tribulations. I got a sunburn while I was shooting. That was real. And it was in the script, so thankfully, I was on schedule with my sunburn. um, but yeah, definitely a lot of challenges, but I'll do it all over again.
Piggybacking off what you mentioned earlier about shooting on location, making sure that the Philippines is being represented. What I love about this film is the authenticity with its story, because I think what makes like really good storytelling in films is when you bring in like real life situations or like a piece of like your own stories, like from or your own experiences into the film. Like with me, one of my favorite films from back in the day is probably like Blood In Blood Out. It kind of basically represents like a lot of Latino culture, but specifically like East LA culture and all of that. With Take Me To Banaue, researching most of the interviews that I've seen, especially with like the I think like the press. What's that? I'm so bad with my grammar. The events. Is it true that Hank, to a percentage, is actually based on a character from one of the cast and crew members?
Um, no, not one of the cast and crew members. Just an amalgamation of a few people that I knew in my life. My buddy Damien, he has alexithymia, and Hank has alexithymia. So I was able to poke his brain and see like what that means. How do you maneuver through life with this numbness that that you can't control. So that was something that required a good amount of research, and of course he's an engineer, and that's very far removed from my lifestyle. So I had to do a lot of research and interviews about that. Another friend, his name's Justin. So I asked a good amount of questions there. So it was a process, certainly. But inevitably, once I stacked up all of my notes, I tried to apply it to the character arc. So there was a lot of moments that wasn't initially scripted that I ad-libbed on the day. I mean, his whole, almost like come to Jesus moment where approaches Grace and he's like, I've never known how I felt about anything or anything, but I know how I feel about you. I love you. That was something that I tried to plug in because of my friends' experiences and what they had gone through, and I felt like it also just made him a more three-dimensional character. And I sprinkled that in throughout the entire narrative. His beat with Dylan, where he's like, care about her. I really care about her. That wasn't scripted. It was actually piggybacking off of one of the moments that was scripted, which was like, I love cell phones in the first act. So I tried to, in a way, rewrite some of the character moments in the journey, because it was a bit undefined in the original script of like what his arc was. So as an actor, I wanted to take it into my own hands, and of course I asked in advance, Danny and crew if I could do such a thing, and that was one of the best parts of working with Danny is like he's very open to new ideas. One of the first things he says in a lot of these interviews is, I'm not the expert here. This is something that's very new to me. I'm still figuring out. So in order to be a good leader, I must listen to my people. So that was a luxury that he provided us, and it's very uncommon with a lot of pictures. They kind of just say show up and do what you're told. So that was just an exciting prospect that I felt like I was a true collaborator on the picture, and I was able to provide a lot of not just levity but heart to Hank that I feel like was not originally on the page. So I really felt like I was able to elevate it.
Out of all the scenes that you shot, if you had to pick one, what's your favorite scene out of the entire movie and why? And then adding on to that, what are some of your favorite scenes that involve other characters?
Slightly cheat. There's just so many good scenes that I'm really proud of. But whenever I think of the movie, I think of that moment where, you know, Hank sees Grace and he's gone through this entire journey and he finally reconnects with her at her home, and he tells her how, you know, he feels. I feel like that's such a classic moment from the genre. So I'm a big fan of that. I just love the view, and you know, it really feels like, you know, you're in Banaue when you watch the picture, and just like the soundscape and all of that. It's just such a spectacle moment, and that was just so lovely to shoot. And as a fan, I was, you know, a fan of the Marvel universe. I was geeking out because I had found out on the day this is the same house that they used in Infinity War. It was Thanos' house, so I was like jumping up and down, and like I took some photos of me doing the gauntlet thing. And just, that was just an exciting day to shoot, and I feel like the scene really turned out well, especially with all the ad libs and, you know, adding to the character. The other one, of course, is Hank and Jordan's first exchange. So much of that was ad-libbed, with like the pants being down. We fought for that. Dylan and I, we came up with it in rehearsals, and we kept fighting Danny on it. And Danny was like, "I don't understand. Why do you want this in the movie?" And it's like, it has to be there.
It's funny. I feel like it just adds to the friendship of them, and I'm just like, when I saw it, I was like, no way that Brandon just...
It's just so fucking bizarre that like they have this heartfelt conversation where, like, you know, Hank is like crying and he's like, "I love this girl. What should I do?" And he's like, "Go after your girl, bro." And he just doesn't have his fucking pants on the entire time.
Well, not just that, but so like funny. He just shimmies over to Jordan also, just like bucket.
Oh yeah. That was an ad lib on my end. Like that was something that like gets a laugh every single time we're in the theater. And I feel like at that point, the movie really comes into its own, and everyone is on board, because the first act, like, they're really not, like, the audience isn't really sure what they're getting themselves into. And then by act 2, you know, Jinky comes on screen and like she loosens up the audience and like reminds them that this is a romantic comedy. So Jinky as a character provides so much levity, so much comedy, and then by Act 3, it's just like it's a riot. Like the audience is just like all on board, and they're you know, rooting for Hank to go after the girl, and they're wondering like, is Jinky having a baby? What's going on? So when the movie ends, on, you know, spoilers, it's cliffhanger. Everyone leaves the movie kind of, you know, a bit pissed because they want more, and I feel like that's, you know, we did our job. If they want more and they're invested in the characters, we're certainly open to coming back and telling more stories in this universe. I love all the characters. I love Hank. So yeah, those are the two, you know, defining scenes that I think of whenever I think of the movie. But of course, you know, I can't leave out the knife scene of that's you know, a big selling point for the picture, and that's really the turning point in my opinion, where the stakes just become much more real, and it's Hank's call to action for the rest of the picture. Beyond that, outside of, you know, my own scenes, I truly love the scene where Grace visits the church and speaks to one of the sisters, and it's revealed what, you know, her name is, you know, what Grace means, and I think that's such a beautiful moment, and that wasn't originally shot in principal photography. That was part of additional. That was after some of the test screenings, and the audience being, a bit concerned about Grace being a prostitute of sorts. So Danny wanted to counteract that by giving her a moment where she's, conflicted about her actions and where she's going to go from there. So the script really evolved throughout the entire process, and I mean, that's just part of filmmaking. It's said in film school that the script is made, or sorry, the film is made 3 times. First in the writing process, second during production, and then of course in post. Um, so yeah, it's just constantly rewriting and rewriting, and then now we finally landed upon something that we're all very confident and happy with.
Is there a scene that you wish you could go back and change it, or do you think the movie is fine and perfect the way it is?
Good question.
Gotcha thinking. Gotcha thinking.
Yeah, I think the one scene that I wish we shot later in the process um, is the introduction between both Hank and Grace. There are just some moments as an actor that um, I see every time when we watch the picture, where I was still finding the character and it was day one. Hank, it did work to our benefit because Hank is supposed to be awkward
Yeah.
and the exchange is supposed to be awkward. So that definitely uh, it is seen on screen and it bled through. It's just certain beats and moments I wish I could massage and tweak, or whether that's of my performance on the day or even in the editing room. But there's only so many things that you can do and you can change. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Like I feel like this is the best version of the movie that I've seen thus far. We started off with like a 2-hour cut, and it was just too long, and that was something that I kept advocating for. It's just let's get it down to 90 minutes. Quick breeze. Make it very light. Um, Beyond that, no, I'm pretty happy with the outcome. There are definitely some things that I wish that I could change in regards to the writing, but that's kind of out of your control. I feel like um, those critiques that I have are going to be now applied to our talks to the sequel. So, live and learn. That's all you can do.
So what you're saying is that there's an extended Snyder cut of Take Me To Banaue. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, there is. There's a Schneider cut out there. I, you know, I don't know if it'll hold up to the Snyder cut. I don't think it has that same maximum impact. But yeah, it exists. It's out there. I do think that the one that's released is the definitive cut. A lot of people online, they're always like, "Oh, longer's better," and that's somewhat true in a way when it comes to episodic television.
Yeah.
That because we're so familiar with long form media now, but I think there's also something equally true about a concise 90-minute picture. I have the same challenges with Spider-Man and the Monsters of Manhattan and the teaser. We originally started off with something that was like 2.5 minutes, and it was definitely solid. It was good. I felt like it gave a little bit too much away, and I felt like the perfect form of the trailer was the minute that we
The
released.
one that broke the internet. That's how I got it. I was like, oh wait, who is Brandon Melo? Who is Monsters of Manhattan? I gotta meet these guys at some point. I gotta bombard their DMs because this is too good of a trailer.
And that took about like 7 months to craft and create from top to bottom. So a lot of people ask me if I missed the 2-minute version, and I simply say no, because I feel like that's the minute version is the best version of the trailer. We told the story. So you always want to maximize your emotional impact, and I feel like that's what we did. In both situations with Spider-Man and and Take Me to Banaue. So yeah, no regrets on my end, at least. I'm sure if Danny was here, he'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this, this and that." But yeah, no, not on my end. I don't have any critiques.
The last question to end the Take Me to Banaue interview segment. What are some of your favorite memories from set?
I've quite a few. I think the one that comes to mind is the after hours with the cast. All of us just hanging out because we were living in this it's like cottage space where there were all these guidelines because Maureen and Thea, they were associated with these bigger networks in the Philippines, so they couldn't travel around and potentially get themselves sick because then that would of course be bad for their health, but also impact the network and impact the cash flow. So can't have that. So we were all in this tight space, following all of these COVID protocols. So we couldn't leave, but it led us to all bond in a way that we hadn't before, and I feel like that's what made the picture what it is because of those moments behind the scenes where we were all able to connect with each other. And Danny would come downstairs in the middle of the night and be like, "We have to shoot at 6 a.m. What are you doing? Go to sleep." And we were like, yeah, Danny, yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna go to bed in like 10 minutes. And then like 3 hours go by, and we're like, and he would come back downstairs and he's like, "Do you not understand? We have movie to shoot." We totally listened and we went back to bed. That's absolutely what happened. But no, I think that's what made the bond so real, is because we all kept hanging out with each other and we didn't want to go to bed. We wanted to, stay up and get to know each other and share stories. And that's a beautiful experience and a beautiful memory, because like where we were east out of, we could see the horizon of Baguio, which is a good portion of where the movie was shot. So we could just see this foreign land that we weren't familiar with, and it was just such a grand spectacle. And I think it was about 10 days into shooting. We had a karaoke night, and we all like got drunk and like started singing tunes and stuff. We had such a blast.
What song did you sing?
I think there's a video of like me and Dylan singing this Freddie Aguilar song. It's some we sung this like Filipino song, but then we also sung Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Kumusta Ka. That's the Filipino song. So yeah, one we're not as familiar with, and one that we are. Definitely an awkward moment altogether, because I can't, I can definitely perform as an actor, but one of my gifts is of filmmaking and the arts in general, but music is not my thing. I was in choir. I failed at choir. They didn't grade any of the other students, but they graded me, and they were like, "Get the fuck out." No, I'm kidding. That didn't happen. But it just was not my thing. But it was fun. I enjoyed karaoke night, just being able to bond with all the people and share all those beautiful memories. And another memory that comes to mind is I think this kind of encapsulates my entire experience of getting to know the Filipino culture. The days are really long while we're shooting, and Danny, of course, is trying to capture all of these incredible shots to tell the story. One of the days when we were at Thanos' house, that's how I'm forever gonna call it. It's Grace's house, but first and foremost, it's Thanos' house. So Danny was trying to grab this like very big landscape shot, and there was mud everywhere, and there was like sinking like craters and all of this bizarre stuff. Because of course we're shooting on locations. We're not shooting in a studio. So things are we're fighting Mother Nature. We're creating this picture, and yeah, one of the moments we were struggling to get this shot, and without without Danny having to even say anything, the crew took off their shoes and got into the mud and carried the equipment to get the shot that we needed. And I feel like that shows the love, the compassion that Filipino culture has, and I felt that throughout my entire experience. People welcoming me into their home without even knowing me and taking care of me, and just being so friendly. While they don't have as many resources as we do here in the States, I've never seen a group of people happier in my life. There's this beautiful light atmosphere that radiates from the Filipino culture. It's just an unforgettable experience. Even thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I miss being out there. I just miss some of the crew, and we became a family by the end of shooting the picture. We all missed each other, and it was definitely a long period of time before we got to see each other again for the premiere. And it was like seeing some of my my cousins and some of my family members. It was just such a nice warm experience.
All I'm saying is that if Take Me to Banaue 2 does happen, more Jinky screen time. Yes, I'm a Jinky stan. You've known this from our previous interview. I'm a Jinky simp. And definitely some more Hank Reeves also. Growing back that damn beard, please.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know about that, dude. I had to learn a whole new way of sleeping with that beard. Like, I couldn't sleep because normally I'm used to, maybe I'll have a little bit of scruff, but usually I'm clean shaven. That damn beard, it was like a squirrel on my face. Normally I sleep on my side. I couldn't do that because the hair kept getting all over my face, and it was just terrible. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It was like a torture chamber on my face for like 4 months. It was just tough. And then like the long hair, like I couldn't shower appropriately because when I would shower, I would go blind because of all the fucking hair getting on my face. Yeah, it was tough. I definitely think I'm gonna keep the Christian boy look. A little bit of scruff, maybe a little bit of hair where it's a slight beard, but that bush of a thing, I don't know. I'm not a beard guy. I don't know if I can do it. I mean, obviously if it's needed for the role, I'll do it, but oh man, that was tricky. That was a tricky one right there. Not a fan of the beard. Things are in a really good place. My last visit to LA, I met up with one of the producers of the project, and we were able to crack story and work with the edit. We're looking to get back on set June, July, so that's really exciting. And yeah, things are looking really good for release later this year.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
I'm actually very confident that we can deliver the package in full, every all the footage and everything. So yeah, this is probably the most optimistic I've been about the project, because it's just been such a behemoth. It's really exciting. I'm really happy with how it's coming out, and I feel like finally now we've reached the bar of quality that we've been looking for.
This is so exciting.
I only asked that question because all of my friends, they're calling me the Spider-Man YouTuber at this point. I hate that I've been branded as that ever since I started making videos on that. But they're like, hey, well, is this movie still coming out? Is this TV show still coming out? Because like it seems like you keep interviewing Brandon and all these guys, but like where are the projects at, man? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just here doing the interviews. I'm just doing what I want.
It's it's coming soon.
But I want it now!